I would like to take this opportunity to thank CNN International for their long-term partnership with UNWTO, for their continuous support to the tourism sector and to our activities. I must also apologize because MCs also make mistakes, and today's lunch was actually the courtesy of our Cambodian hosts. So to them, a very big round of applause, please. And without further ado, I will give the floor to Andrew. Andrew?
Thank you very much. Everyone can hear me. Your Excellency, Dr. Rifai, the Secretary General of the UNWTO, Mr. Alfredo Perez, the Assistant Director General of UNESCO, Excellencies, Honourable Ministers, Secretaries of Culture and Tourism from across the world, dignitaries and ladies and gentlemen, a very, very warm welcome to our session today, the ministerial session, Building New Partnership Models. And I'd just like to echo that CNN is very, very proud to be part of this. You may or may not know that our new tagline, if you like, for CNN is very simple. It says, "Go there." The one before says, "Go beyond borders." So I feel I'm in very good company today, and I feel that this is part of our DNA to be with such an august group that is represented right across the world here today. Now, I know also that the first session after lunch is always a little bit tough. Usually, the more agreeable the lunch, the tougher it is. But I'd like to frame this, if I can, from something that our previous speakers have said, that this actually is right now, right here, a moment in history. There is a chance that we can actually, and this panel can make history today here. History because it's the first time that the UNWTO and UNESCO has presided over such an international event. It's the first time that we've had such a gathering of global, not only tourism and culture, but senior people from the industries as well, gathering under one roof to talk about something which we all know is critical to so many aspects of the development of the planet we live on. It is an enormous topic, and hopefully over the next 3 hours we're going to get some answers, we're going to have some enlivened debate and some insights into what we can do and how we can do it. Let me just tell you one little anecdote about me before I start. I grew up on a tiny little island at the very southern edge of a much bigger island called Australia. I'm from Tasmania. When I was there, most people thought Tasmania was actually part of Africa. People didn't really know much about it. But every year when I was a kid, this is back in the late 1970s, my holiday, my travel, was to get in the car with my family and drive 3 hours to a friend's house and stay there for 2 weeks while those friends came to our house. It was a house swap. It was a big deal then, and we loved it. But that's as far as we went. We couldn't dream of getting on a plane. We couldn't imagine doing what kids do now. And as a contrast, my own children, who are now just entering their teenage years, they've seen Angkor Wat, they've seen the Taj, they've swum with whale sharks in the Philippines, and 100 other things in between. This is the revolution in travel that Dr. Rifai was talking about earlier today. This is the right now of all of us to travel, for travel to be a part of our lives, and it is intrinsically now a part of our lives. And nowhere is that obviously more apparent than right here in Asia. If you think about the emerging middle class, you think about China, India, Southeast Asia, the hundreds of millions of newly minted middle class people wanting to travel, getting on AirAsia, because the AirAsia tagline is now everyone can fly, and indeed they can. So the problem, as we know, is to get the solution, to get the equation right on how we travel without destroying what we go to see. How do we get that blueprint for sustainable tourism, for sustainable development? Because tourism, again, I'm repeating what so much is said today, but I think it's important to know this. You think about it. the economic benefits of tourism are enormous, as we know. Was it 1.7 people, 1 out of 7 people in the world are now travelling. Jobs, sustainable jobs at that. There's the economic side of it, and as important, there is the softer side, there's the understanding, there's the tolerance, which perhaps does lead to peace. I'm sure my children are so much more aware and so much more understanding of different cultures than I was at their age, and that can only be a good thing. So we've got to get it right, and if we do get it right, and if this panel can get it right, and it is your responsibility, the people standing here, sitting here, to get this right, things can change. History can and will be made. If you don't get it right, for many, there's no second chance at this. What we have now, once it goes, will probably be gone forever. So it is an imperative. It's a big responsibility. And hopefully over the next 3 hours, we're going to be hearing from people with ideas, with plans, and I want to hear debate, and I want to hear opinions. Now, obviously we have a very big panel today, you may have noticed. So what I'm going to do, as far as making this work as smoothly as I can, is I'm going to break it down into 5 sections, if you like, and ministers and secretaries and excellencies will be speaking to one of those 5 sections. Now the sections are, we're going to be talking about, to begin with, the connection between tourism and culture, how tourism helps keep culture alive. Then we're going to move on to how we protect that culture. What do we need to do to ensure that culture stays alive so tourism can flourish? Then we'll be talking about what tourism needs from culture leaders and what culture leaders need from tourism leaders, how you work together. Because someone told me, and I won't mention any names, but they said that, you know, in a lot of countries, culture and tourism are opposed, shall I say. Tourism is seen as growth by the tourist people, and culture is seen as an obstacle to that growth. So how do we work together? How do we make it all work in one seamless way? And finally, we're going to be talking about the partnerships. What happens? What needs to be done? What does government do? What's the governance involved? And from that, if we just get one good idea, there will indeed have been some history made right here this afternoon. So, let us begin. And our first mini topic within this broader topic is the connection between tourism and culture. How does tourism help keep alive cultures in different destinations across the countries? And I would like to call on Prince Sultan of Saudi Arabia to begin our dialogue today. Is he here? Oh, sorry, right there. So, and my question to you is really, as a country which every year sees, if not one of the biggest influxes of people, the Hajj, over a small amount of time, just tell me, you've come here to Cambodia, what are you hoping to get? What is the value of this trip for you?
You know, as Prince Sultan bin Salman mentioned this morning, we have in Saudi Arabia a very long and ancient tradition of receiving visitors. And the economy of Arabia from the 4th millennium, based on service industry, we call it roads of Arabia, trade road and receiving the caravans. And with this tradition, of course, in Islamic period, we have the Hajj. Each year in Saudi Arabia, actually, we receive more than 6 million and sometimes more than 10 million visitors a year. And of course, with this tradition, which go back, the Hajj, which go back to 14th century from now, we have a long tradition of service industry, which is tourism in another way. Yeah. So we are here to show to you the experience of Saudi Arabia, the plans of the actual government of Saudi Arabia also to use the all heritage of kind of heritage in Arabia, even the pre-Islamic heritage in this activity, and also to share with the others our know-how, and also permit to others to visit our country and know about our deep history we claim actually that Saudi Arabia have 4 dimensions, not only economic and political and religious roles, but even we have a very important role, which is the civilization which passed on Arabia. And here in Saudi Arabia now we have a big project of protection and presentation of the national heritage. It's a project of more than 5 billion riyal. We are planning to do this project in 3 years only. And this project will repositioning Saudi Arabia in the international market of tourism.
It's something we will come back to, sir, but I just want to quickly ask you now, talking about the Hajj, what does the Hajj do for the protection of culture and cultural icons in Saudi Arabia?
Of course, you know, the Hajj in the northwestern Saudi Arabia, most of the Hajj places in the northwestern Saudi Arabia. And you know, from time to time we have more and more visitors for the Hajj and Umrah. And the government of Saudi Arabia now pay a lot of resource to protect these sites and also to do all the presentation needed for the exceeding number of Hajj. And until now, Saudi Arabia looked to the Hajj as not as a commerce or a tourism activity, but it's obligation of the government to prepare these sites for all Muslim everywhere in the world. Of course, Saudi Arabia have the resource which permit to do so.
And you have to, I mean, you have to have it right. You have to have the infrastructure right. You have to have the icons right. They have to stay. And the organisation must be extraordinary. We will come back to you, sir.
But now we are developing another concept. We call it Hajj or tourism after Hajj, or tourism after Umrah. Umrah is the small Hajj. So now we are planning to associate together tourism and Hajj activity in one destination.
Joining the Hajj, using it for more tourism. I'd like to call on the Minister for Cultural Affairs of Bangladesh to add their voice about the value of this gathering here for Bangladesh. Do you have a microphone, sir? Oh, yeah. Just if you can just take it out of the socket there. There you go.
Please say it again.
Yes, sorry. This gathering here today, what is the value for you? What are you looking to get from this gathering today? What are you hoping to learn? What are you hoping to tell people?
First of all, my greetings to all the important people, VIPs here, the Excellencies. With me, our Minister for Tourism is also here. Firstly, I must say one thing, that we proudly own 3 World Heritages. One is the Paharpur Buddhist Monastery. The other one is the Shad Gambuj Mosque, and also the mangrove forest of Sundarban. So we have actually more than 1,200 listed heritage sites. And our problem is that on the surface we have number of heritage sites, but underground, deep inside, we have many more than that, which we need to be discovered, excavated. We must dig them out. And we are actually lacking fund, we are lacking experts. And I believe this initiative by UNWTO and UNESCO together is going to open up a new horizon from which a country like us will be benefited. And this August gathering definitely will come to an agreement after this conference, which will help a country like us.
Thank you very much. Could I call on the Minister for Sports, Culture and Arts in Ecuador? Is the Ecuadorian minister here? No? Okay. So perhaps the Subsecretary of Tourism for Argentina?
Yes, I'm here. Acá
Madam,
estoy.
yes, so just to follow on this theme, I'm trying to get a flavour of what you're looking for to get from this meeting, this dialogue today. What do you hope to achieve? What's the value for a country like Argentina coming here to listen?
Bueno, es muy importante el encuentro y el diálogo entre los trabajadores de la cultura y del turismo, porque creo que juntos y profundizando vamos a poder trabajar los aspectos más sustantivos para poder acercarnos. En este sentido creo que hay muchos aspectos para trabajar. Hay dos que quisiera compartir con todos, al menos en mi país, es aquellos que representan una barrera, como por ejemplo esta situación de paridad que hay que trabajar y lograr para comenzar cualquier vínculo. Y la otra, el otro aspecto es el de la visión unifocal de unos sobre otros, de los trabajadores de la cultura en relación a los trabajadores del turismo. Creo que la visión en este sentido es sesgada, es incompleta. Los trabajadores de la cultura ven en el turismo solamente una fuente de financiamiento. Los trabajadores, al menos en mi país, ¿no? Los trabajadores, por otro lado, del turismo ven en los responsables de la gestión de los activos culturales esta visión más académica, más investigativa, a veces, en ocasiones, enmascarada por esta aspiración de, digamos, de inclusión a través del uso público. Entonces hay muchos aspectos, distintas dimensiones que están actuando como barreras. Absolutamente las políticas entre turismo y cultura son las mismas. Es innegable que todos trabajamos sobre las mismas cuestiones y tenemos los mismos objetivos desde distintas perspectivas. Pero es importante, digamos, allanar barreras, y eso es lo que espero que contribuya este encuentro y este diálogo aquí.
It's an interesting point you make on that, about how close culture and tourism is and how it is a joint approach is needed. Given that, do you find it surprising that it has taken to 2015 to pull it all together so we have a meeting like this? Or is it an idea whose time has now come? Or do you think it's been coming for a long time?
Bueno, desde la gestión concreta en Argentina, yo puedo decir que tanto la ministra de Cultura como el ministro de Turismo, que lleva una gestión desde el año 2013 en adelante, compartimos, al momento de compartir el proyecto político, la misma visión, esta idea, digamos, de entender una gestión compartida y tender hacia la colaboración plena, como en una natural complementariedad, ¿no? Y en un trabajo fluido. Esa es la visión. Lo que pasa es que después en las líneas medias esto cuesta, digamos, ¿no? Por las barreras que están largamente instaladas. Pero la visión es esa, trabajar en conjunto, no solamente en la implementación, sino en una instancia anterior, que es la de la planificación y el diseño de estrategias conjuntas para poder luego lograr esa natural complementariedad en el trabajo, que a veces es un poco esquiva. Y tenemos experiencias concretas, como por ejemplo, la gestión, digamos, el Ministerio de Turismo ha contribuido y trabajado con el Ministerio de Cultura en la preparación del dossier en la parte de Argentina, presentado ante la UNESCO para la inscripción en la lista de patrimonio del sistema vial andino Capañán. Realmente ha sido una tarea impresionante. El Ministerio de Turismo aportó en este proceso el plan de uso público y un plan de obras turísticas. Y bueno, realmente eso ha sido un punto de encuentro fenomenal. Los esquemas de gestión compartidos que propone toda esta situación de estatus de estar inscrito en la lista de patrimonio también obliga a los trabajadores del turismo y de la cultura a sentarse para trabajar juntos, planificar y gestionar nuestros destinos turísticos. Con lo cual, yo creo que hay una tendencia de encuentro y voluntad de trabajo cooperativo que hay que profundizar, desde luego.
Absolutely, and that is why this meeting is happening, that is why we're having this dialogue, to make that trend go stronger. I'd like to ask the Minister for Tourism and Handicrafts from Algeria also for their comments on, again, what do you want to see happen here at this meeting And what do you want to share?
Merci pour cette question que vous venez de me poser. Le secteur du tourisme en Algérie n'est pas chargé des sites touristiques. Et là, je me rends compte, et dans la mesure où il y a une complémentarité entre le secteur de la culture et du tourisme, il serait peut-être bon de recommander au gouvernement de confier la gestion des sites touristiques et leur protection peut-être au même ministère pour, d'un côté, mieux gérer ces sites et assurer une meilleure coordination pour leur gestion en termes d'exploitation touristique. Je profite de cette rencontre peut-être pour faire une proposition dans la mesure où certains chemins et certaines routes touristiques connues à travers le monde, comme la route de la soie, dans mon pays, au sud, dans le Sahara, il y a ce qu'on appelle la route des Qsor. Une partie se situe sur le territoire algérien, mais une autre partie se trouve dans les pays limitrophes, le Mali, le Niger. Peut-être qu'il serait souhaitable, dans le cadre d'une coopération internationale, voir les voies et moyens pour apporter une contribution et protéger et rendre utilisables ces routes à même de développer le tourisme dans ces régions qui en ont grandement besoin. Merci.
That's a very, very interesting point, and it's interesting you raise that because I know Lithuania also has an amber route, which we're going to be hearing about a little bit later. But it's a very interesting concept, and it works with governments across regions, so which also brings in governance as well, which allows people a common governance. Okay. I'd like to ask the First Deputy Minister of Culture of the Czech Republic now, if they could have a few words, particularly about what you're hoping to achieve from this. I think that's okay now.
Yes. Yes. For me, it's very, very easy. I'm here to inspire, to listen to the best examples. In the Czech Republic, we have 12 cultural heritage sites that have been inscribed on the UNESCO World Heritage List. It's ranking Czech Republic among very well represented countries. Ministry of Culture, responsible for culture, and the Ministry of Regional Development, responsible for tourism. They are currently under preparation of, let's say, deeper cooperation. So we are at the very beginning, and we put our effort now to coordinate the activities of agencies co-financed from the state budget that operate under both ministries. This is the Czech tourism on one hand, and other agencies which are under Ministry of Culture, like the National Heritage Institute, the National Institute of Folk Culture, the Arts and Theatre Institute, or National Museum, and so on. So I must say that we are at the very beginning.
Thank you very much. We will continue to discuss some of these points. I'd like to call on the Minister of Tourism, Antiquities and Wildlife in Sudan now, if they could just comment on what they're looking for to come from this meeting today, what they hope they will get from this, and what they hope this meeting will get from that. Is a Sudanese representative here? Sir.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. First of all, I had special grading to the Minister of Tourism and the Minister of Culture of Cambodia, and special grading to Dr. Talib Rufai, the UNWTO Secretary, and Mr. Alfred, Assistant General of UNESCO, and distinguished all ministers and guests and delegates. I would like to express my gratitude to the Kingdom of the Cambodia for this invitation. Why we come here? This is the question, correct? We come here first to exchange the experience of us and to see what is the people in the world done for the culture and for the tourism, and also to exchange the experience with them and to show what we take steps in the same direction of this conference, and to say what we have in Sudan especially. And that is why we come to join this conference. If I continue to say our experience, or okay?
Yes?
Yes.
Sorry, so you have a speech?
Yeah?
You have a speech?
Not a speech.
Oh, sorry.
Just to express the...
Oh, please.
Yeah. For the why we coming, we want to express that we establish a partnership with the private sector and the NGOs to develop the local communities in the natural resource and cultural heritage sites, and we establish foundation to collect funds to develop the tourism to aiming for the sustainable and equal development. We make a step further to emerge between the tourism and culture when we have, if we have any festival or we have any fair for tourism, you cannot say this is only special for tourism. It is expression, we define culture in any presence activities. And we get merged and we get confused. If this culture festival, you can get confused if this culture festival or a tourism celebrations. In our states, because Sudan had a confederal situations, in our state, we start festival of tourism and culture together. We had in one state we have more than 12 celebration or 12. Culture with festival with tourism together. Of course, these states we have one ministry for culture and tourism. And last in central government also there are one ministry. So the local community and local government are growing fast to us to use culture in tourism in Sudan. So we have good partnership in state government now between the Ministry of Culture and Ministry of Tourism. And also this will get this year's we have in Sudan in this year's 2015 we have a celebration of Kadugli. Kadugli is a city in the south of the North New Sudan. As we have a celebration Kadugli as the capital of Sudanese cultural heritage. We will do it this year, and we will be happy if we see the UNESCO Secretary and the UNESCO to join this.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to, we have a lot of guests to get through, so I will keep moving on, but basically you are focusing on a lot of cultural events,
yeah.
And you also run tourism and cultural events in the same, out of the same ministry. So you're the same, it's the same ministry. Thank you, sir.
But I just have one small request.
Yes.
For the conference. I have a special request to include the Arabic language to be one of the language of the future tourism conference all over the world. because it is a language to express the culture and the heritage of Arabic and Islamic states, and of course, the Muslims people all over the world, and this is our rights. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I would like to ask Dr. Rifai to respond to that.
We have it. The good minister could have spoken in Arabic if he had chosen. I should have told you that before. We have all the 6 common languages of the United Nations here at this thing. Thank you.
Very good. We're all covered. I'd like to move on to the Tourism Minister of Cambodia. And a question for you, sir, about tourism and how it's keeping culture alive. How is tourism, particularly in this country? Because we heard this morning about just how important tourism is to Cambodia and to the development of this country. But how is it protecting culture here?
Hello. Yes, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the tourism has been considered widely as one of the world's largest economic and social sectors due to its cross-cutting nature and its high labor-intensive characteristic, as well as one of the most important ways for creating mutual understanding. With its cross-cutting nature, tourism development can affect or can be affected by other relevant sectors. So the sector has been recognized as one of the most clean economic sector because the development of tourism appear to generate growth while ensuring the right balance of economic, social, environmental, and cultural sustainability. In part by this belief, it appears that tourism development is more likely sustainable, responsible, and inclusive. Nevertheless, this belief is not automatically guaranteed without clear policy and strategy aimed mainly for the purpose. We wish to make tourism a main pillar of the new post-2015 Sustainable Development Agenda. To do so, we need strong commitment, active cooperation, and consistent coordination between tourism and other related sectors. Tourism and culture has long been linked together like husband and wife. So cultural tourism has been considered as the primary market segment of the global tourism. We should seek for more opportunity to further strengthen this link for mutual benefit that will bring forward sustainable growth and inclusive development. For Cambodia, cultural tourism has become the backbone of Cambodia tourism development. Because we are rich in cultural resources and attractions such as heritage, historic sites, the smiling people, rich tradition, food, art and crafts, etc. So considering the great importance of cultural tourism for the country's development, we have been developing the Cambodia Cultural Tourism Strategy Plan 2016 and 2025, aiming to bring together development perspective from the points of view of tourism and culture. With regard to the governance model, we think that most importantly, a convergent strategy among relevant stakeholders at all levels, that means local and national level, is needed to enhance the effective international cooperation. In this context, the concept of 4 Ps. 4 P, it means P public, P private, P people, and P partnership, should be taken into consideration so as to make every stakeholder involved and benefit from the development. Another thing, a steering committee led by a top leader, either by the Prime Minister or Deputy Prime Minister, should be established at the national level with the participation of all relevant line ministry, agency and private sector, and with the support of technical consultation from the UNWTO and the UNESCO. In this sense, I would like to share a slogan saying that all for tourism and tourism for all, which reflects clearly the ultimate goals of partnership. That is the fundamental message of this conference. With share risk, share responsibility, and share benefits. All for tourism showcase the need to work together, and most importantly, the fact that to realize the goals, we need an effective and realistic implementation mechanism that requires participative approach based on 4 Ps concept. So as I said, that public, private, people, partnership, and to deal with key challenges, either under the scope of the Ministry of Tourism and other tourism organizations, or under the purview of other ministries and institutions, so as to ensure active and coordinating effort, contribution from all relevant stakeholders in developing the strategy as well as in implementing it. It requires commitment, effort, and support from the 4 P stakeholders to better develop cultural tourism, including the product development, promotion, and destination management, etc. Integration, I strongly believe that a more integrated approach is needed both at the destination level and at the national level. This will also stimulate the impact of the development to a new level. Tourism for all demonstrates the great deal of tourism development impact, either in terms of economic, social, environmental, and cultural impact. The spirit is very much in line with the sustainable, responsible, and inclusive growth, with addressing the challenges of improving the attractiveness and protection of cultural heritage tourism assets. We can be more proactive and responsive to the global uncertainty and the climate change. We need to ensure a more inclusive pattern of tourism development by mainstreaming local community participation in the tourism value at the destination level, and by prioritizing preservation, revitalization, and valorization of cultural heritage in the tourism development agenda. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to put this question to everybody here in a show of hands. Just before I do that, sir.
Yes, just a remark. I would like
Yes.
to say that the translation to and from the Arabic language is not provided, or probably the translators did not come.
Thank you. We will investigate and we'll get back to you and find out why. But there should be, Dr. Ifai, there should be. Yeah.
I checked all the 5 languages and they are provided.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'd like to ask a question of all our panelists here in a show of hands, just a very basic question. Do you think your country, your policies to protect the icons, the tourism icons of your country are adequate? Do you think the tourism icons in your country are being adequately protected as of now? If you think they are, could you please raise your hand? And if you think they're not, could you please raise your hand? It's actually quite a close, that's quite interesting. You don't, Colombia, you don't think of being, well, why not?
Well, maybe I'm being too ambitious, but I think there's a lot more to be done. Of course, we are doing our job to protect those elements of our patrimony that have been declared and that have been recognized, not only worldwide through UNESCO, but also nationally as our local monuments. However, I feel there's a lot more to be done, and that other organizations and the community must be more involved. So I feel that a conference like this should also be a wake-up call for all of us to understand that culture is not something that's only represented by some monuments that are far away and that belong to someone else, that they belong to all of us as a people who should have deep attachments to them, and that we should be more involved in the protection.
You mean
and
internationally?
The promotion in all levels, internationally, nationally, and even at the local level. Because I feel that maybe in a meeting like this we can focus on the monuments that, like beautiful scenes that we have around us in this hall, but also very more strength around your culture. So in all those fields, that's where I meant that we have a lot of work to be done.
It's a lot of work to be done. I should just remind our panelists too that if you have a remark or a comment, please feel free to raise your hand. I will recognize you. Madam.
Sorry, I just would like to bring to the attention.
I can hear it a little bit.
Yeah.
Keep it
sorry,
very close to your mouth.
Yeah,
okay.
Thank you. I think I would like to really raise, also to share the point that there should be many more stakeholders, and I would like to report here really a model from the Kingdom of Bahrain, where the issue of funding has been very creatively addressed in the protection of natural heritage. Of cultural heritage, I'm sorry. And the scheme...
Sorry, could I just... it is something we will address about policy and about the tangibles that governments are doing. Perhaps we could address that in that section, which comes a little later in the session. Is that all right with you? So I will come to you. We will talk about this a little bit later, about that tangible, about your policy, okay? So I will come back to you.
Okay.
I just want to keep it just on the topic at hand at the moment. Thank you.
Okay.
Zambia.
Thank you very much, moderator. First of all, I would like to thank and congratulate UNWTO and UNESCO for organizing this important conference. Secondly, I also want to pay tribute to the Kingdom of Cambodia for the being a wonderful host to me and my delegation. For us as Zambians, we've come here to learn from other people their best practice. Zambia is a landlocked country, but now we call it land-linked because we have good roads that lead to countries that are not landlocked. And therefore, we also have access to the ports in other countries. Zambia has prioritized tourism in the sense that we feel as a country that tourism is the only way we can create wealth and jobs. Zambia also is endowed with a lot of tourism attractions and wildlife. But what we lack is infrastructure. And I'm here as a Minister of Tourism and Arts, to come and look for if there's anyone that is willing to come and invest in Zambia into infrastructure. We'll be very, very grateful, because this is what sets us backwards in terms of bed space. Also, Zambia is a mother to the mighty Victoria Falls. I'm sure everybody knows the Vic Falls. And in Victoria Falls, we have at the moment land that would like to give out to investors to come and put up a convention center, so that we also can be at par with other countries in terms of tourism. So I'm here to tap into other people's knowledge, as well as to who investors to come to Zambia. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. I will come to you in just a minute, sir. Just hold on. I'd just like to move on and pick up on our second segment of this discussion, the need to protect culture through tourism. And by culture, we're talking about the intangibles. We spoke about a little bit earlier, the language, the customs, the traditions, not just the icons, not just the architecture. So I want to talk a little bit more about protecting the intangibles. And I'd like to call on the Minister, or actually the First Secretary, Ministry of Culture of India, if they are here, to just lead off that discussion. So that is you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Hello.
Yes.
Thank you very much. We in India, Ministry of Tourism, first of all, we would like to compliment and congratulate UNWTO, UNESCO, and Government of Cambodia for organizing first ever conference on culture and tourism. In our Government of India's opinion, it should have happened very early. It should have been 6th or 7th conference, because we believe culture can do without tourism, but tourism can't do without culture. And we also believe that India is a cultural destination. We have got 29 UNESCO World Heritage Sites, and our effort should be that we should promote sensitive tourism, that tourists can come and enjoy the local culture without harming in any way the culture of the host community, because it's kind of a symbiotic association where we are able to derive benefit for all participants. How do you define culture? It is basically nothing but what we call our shared values, practices, way of life, ethos, a tangible, intangibles. So I appreciate the slogan given by our friend from Cambodia, all for tourism and tourism for all, in a very symbiotic kind of an association. I firmly believe tourism can play a very, very significant role in promotion, preservation of the culture of the mankind in all its different manifestations. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any panelists here who think that that action has to be taken? The Indian delegation talks about it's a natural symbiosis, it's a symbiotic relationship, but do you think more needs to be done to protect the intangibles, the culture? Sir.
Thank you very much. Alain Saint-Ange from the Seychelles. I think what the Minister of India has spoken about is true. Many countries have done the first step of wanting to protect what we have. But the international community, and I had a meeting this morning with the representative of UNESCO, there we need to work more between UNWTO and UNESCO. The countries are looking at putting forward sites. They say this needs to be protected. But I think it is the duty of UNESCO to come up and say, we will help you protect it. Today, and I discussed with the representative of Mrs. Bakova this morning, to get it protected, you have to be a university, because you have to write encyclopedias to get a site listed. Not only a site, but also tangible or intangible attractions that you have. You see, this morning, Mr. Rifai raised an important point. Protecting is one thing, but just to say you have it won't get you very far, and after a while, most countries are unable to keep on sustaining it. And this is that marriage between tourism and culture. The storyboard that Mr. Rifai spoke about. Culture, if we went yesterday to the spectacular icon of this city, This storyboard by itself means nothing after a while. You'll keep investing money into it, but through tourism, when tourism comes in to support it, then the industry moves, but the tourism industry is able to sustain the development and continued development of these sites. Seychelles has done this marriage some 4 years ago, and I became the first Minister of Tourism and Culture, because we believe that tourists, this discerning traveler of today, wants more than just sun, sea, and sand or mountain slopes. They want to see and take back memories, and these memories are culture, the natural assets of the country. You see, often you get asked, what is the main qualification for a tourism minister? To have been a tourist. When you are a tourist yourself, you know what people are looking for. And this is why today, if I come to Cambodia for this conference, we are doing it already in Seychelles. But it's to get more people to appreciate and to jump on the bandwagon to make the cultural assets of the world, including Seychelles, more visible and more accepted that this is the base of tourism industry for the future.
You make it sound very straightforward and very simple, but actually protecting those assets, protecting those in many cases fragile assets, and Angkor Wat is a great example of that. More needs to be done. Who does it?
The country itself, but with the help of the UNESCO.
And what sort of help are we talking? What would you want UNESCO to do?
Well, I think
for example,
instead of sitting in an office somewhere, they have to get out to the countries and say, you want to get this listed, you want to get this recognized. How can I help you make it? Instead of being the other way around, that you have to keep going back to them, they need to come out. They are there to protect what the world has. If there is a slave ruin in Seychelles, it is not for Seychelles, it is for the world. If it is for the world needs to help me, not to invest money into it, but to tell me, yes, I will help you make the next step to get it recognized.
So it's the recognition that you needed UNESCO recognition or World Heritage recognition.
When UNESCO has recognized it, through the World Tourism Body, we then work together to get it more publicized, to get it known to the world.
Okay. Just a quick, to your point earlier, sir, the Arabic service is now restored. There was a technical issue. We do apologize for that.
Okay. I have a comment regarding your question or your point regarding intangible culture. First, I would like to commend the Kingdom of Cambodia and the UNWTO and UNESCO for organizing this conference. And when it comes to intangible heritage, I remember in 1997 when this notion was introduced in UNESCO by Mr. Federico Mayor, the Director General of UNESCO at that time, and the Assistant Director General of Culture at that time, Mr. Bushnaki, who was present. There was an information meeting, and an example was exposed in that meeting, which is Jam' al-Fna in Marrakesh, which is one of the symbols of intangible heritage, rich intangible heritage sites in the world. 2 years after that, Jam' al-Fna was enlisted on the intangible World Heritage List, and of course it got so much publicity, and more visitors came to Morocco, attracted to Marrakesh especially, attracted by this site. But to my surprise, last August I was participating in a seminar on intangible heritage in Morocco, in Asila, and when I mentioned the example of Jam' al-Fna, many, not just few, many Moroccan intellectuals and researchers were expressed their disappointment, and let's say it was a cry for help, saying that since Jam' al-Fna was enlisted on World Intangible Heritage List, the place deteriorated. The commercial, let's say, fast food, I don't want to mention names.
Yes,
I mean, all these touristic food and drinks, and even businessmen, real estate people get very greedy, and they bought land around Jam al-Fna and invested into luxurious apartments, and so the nature, the essence of Jam al-Fna changed. So what we need is a really collaboration between UNESCO, the member states, the states that enlist unique and important intangible heritage sites, to be vigilant. There is a need to be constantly vigilant, and also if a country does not respect the obligation that it has given to protect the authenticity of this site, this site should be taken
delisted.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a very good point you make about the commercialism and the pitfalls of how to protect these intangibles. We do have a lot of guests I do want to bring in, and I do see hands, and I do appreciate your wanting to take part. So, Madam, if I can ask you, and then we will speak, we'll talk to the Vietnamese.
Allow me, from Thailand, I'm from Minister of Tourism and Sport. I'm coming with the Minister of Culture. I just would like to share with you about intangible and tangible heritage of the country. The example that we have been doing in Thailand now. This year we are launching Discover Thainess, because we believe that actually the true charming aspect of Thailand that draw people to return to our country. The most important thing is the way of life and the way of our people. And by doing this, meaning that we are trying to introduce not only the main cities, but the smaller cities, trying to distribute the opportunity to the local communities. And then at the same time, this is the way to educate the local people. I would like to answer that the most important thing to keep everything, I don't think it's not only the task of UNESCO or even UNWTO. I think it's the people and it's the local people. We launched Discover Thainess because part of this is to educate the young generation of our people that this is a globalization. The young generation have a chance to study abroad. They tend to forget their heritage.
Does that, I just want to ask you a quick question there. That heritage you talk about, does that help them get jobs? Does that help the community economically by sticking to that heritage? Or do you have to look at something else to generate for it?
That's why I would like to say that thanks to tourism. In the past, it might be difficult to find job in the local community. But nowadays, once we try to advertise, once we try to PR that actually there are so many things for the tourists to see in the local communities. So they can find job. They can find job in their hometown. So therefore, nowadays, a lot of young generation of the Thai people start to return after they get education, maybe in Bangkok or abroad. And I think that is most important thing, is to embrace the young generation. And so that they will become a part of the future who protect. And money will not...
Excuse me, madam, whose responsibility is it to educate those children? Does it come from the government? Does it come from the bottom up or the top down?
I think it's all. It's us sitting here to take action. The government, and this one maybe I would like to thank UNWTO and UNESCO for having this conference, because I think in the past many, or maybe even our government, they expect a lot of number of tourists to our country, but they don't really understand about the budget spending. Okay. So they always cut. So therefore, with this kind of thing, if we united, then I think the people around the world start to really understand that tourism is everyone's. It benefits everyone, but meaning that you need to invest. We need to invest.
Thank you.